So you asked me what is noise and what is signals. So I think as per experts, all of this was noise. But let's start with the signals now. India imports 85% of its crude, and oil price elevations really affect us. It's a real headwind, and it's not a minor nuisance. Second signal that you've already seen is that the foreign investors have been net sellers this year. But today the monthly SIB flows are approximately 29,000 crores, and January 26 saw the highest inflows of 31,000 crores, where retail investors have still not blinked even though markets have fallen. We are the fastest growing nation in the world with a GDP growth estimated even after this war of 7.1% in 2026. Our inflation numbers are well within RBI's comfort zone at approximately 3.2% last month. Why did Indian retail investors start investing heavily? After COVID. In this particular period of time, everyone was seeing charts on social media which showed them this particular stock or this particular fund gave this much return in 10, 15, 20 years. My 10 lakh can become 3 crores or my 10 lakh can become 5 crores, etc. I believe that they've missed the biggest point here, and that is that the investors who earned these returns are not the ones who timed the market, but they're the ones who gave the market time.
Every financial year brings fresh headlines, market reactions, and a new set of investor questions. But beyond the noise, the real task is understanding what truly matters. What should investors pay attention to? How should they think about mutual fund investing without getting lost in complexity? And as FY27 begins, how can they approach investing with more thought and direction? To help answer these questions, we have with us Mr. Rishabh Kankaria, Director at Richfield Fintech, a chartered accountant and a CFA charter holder. He has worked with countless investors on taxation, financial structuring, and portfolio planning. In this episode of Nivesh Pe Charcha, we discuss how investors can better approach investing in FY27. In this conversation, we discuss what mattered in FY26, how investors can interpret the current environment, and how can they approach allocation, portfolio planning, and financial decisions with better clarity in FY27. Let's dive in. Hi Rishabh, welcome to Nivesh Pe Charcha.
Hi Mukul. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be on your platform.
Our pleasure. Rishabh, this is a very interesting topic, so let's dive right into it. अभी जो FY26 है वो ख़त्म होने वाला है, बट अगर हम पीछे देखें तो FY26 had no shortage of triggers. हमने जियोपॉलिटिकल टेंशंस देखे, हमने रेट एक्सपेक्टेशंस को लेके डाइवर्जेंसेस देखे, मार्केट में बहुत वॉलेटिलिटी देखी, बट नेवरदलेस देयर वाज अ फ्लो ऑफ मनी दैट केप्ट कमिंग इन. Looking back at FY26, what are some of the things that you believe mattered to the investors, and what are things that actually were nothing more than noise?
Yeah, of course. I mean, financial year 26 has been full of global tensions. I mean, if we start counting, I think हाथ में अंगुलियां कम पड़ेंगी, because I think let's start with that itself. So we started with the escalation of the Russia-Ukraine war, wherein this President Zelensky went to European nations, went to US, and tried to get defense equipments for himself. But nevertheless, the war hasn't stopped even today. Then there was these tariff threats by Mr. President, and there were dynamic tariff rates, which led to another economic war between US and China also. Mr. President's expansive narrative on Greenland, which led to the start of disagreements between US and European nations for the first time, I feel. Then there was this whole Japan interest rate scenario, wherein Japan as a country, it has operated on a zero or a negative or a zero interest rate regime for 25 plus years. For the first time, they've increased their interest rates, and they started with 0.1, 0.25, etc. And then this whole thing is called the unwinding of the yen carry trade. So this was a very big event in geopolitics, because Japan was a source of cheap capital for the entire globe. Then there was Iran-Israel war part 1. Then there was this China-Taiwan stress, which probably might even escalate again. There's currently an ongoing private credit and shadow banking stress going on in the US. This unprecedented rise in capex across the globe in AI, which has led to foreign outflows from India and various other countries as well, to specific countries like US and China, where there's a lot of AI related R&D. Recently, Mr. President kidnapped Venezuela's president overnight and took control of the entire country's oil reserves, as far as we know. And by the way, they have the largest oil reserves in the world. And now we are sitting at an Iran-Israel war part two. And even while that's ongoing, Mr. President publicly mentions that Cuba is his next target. You asked me what is noise and what is signals. So I think, as per experts, all of this was noise. But let's start with the signals now. So yes, India imports 85% of its crude, and oil price elevations really affect us. It's a real headwind, and it's not a minor nuisance. It puts pressure on our current account deficit. It puts pressure on our corporate balance sheets and even on household budgets. हम गाड़ी में जब तेल डाल रहे हैं तो तेल की प्राइसेस भी बढ़ सकती हैं. कुकिंग एलपीजी की प्राइस ऑलरेडी बढ़ चुकी है. सो इट इज़ अ बिग प्रॉब्लम. Second signal that you might you've already seen is that the foreign investors have been net sellers this year. And some bears, they're saying that आप क्या कर रहे हैं एज अ गवर्नमेंट या एज अ कंट्री, आप क्या कर रहे हैं, आप फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर्स को एग्जिट दे रहे हैं. क्योंकि वो जब पहले पैसा लगाते थे तो दे कुडंट एग्जिट इजीली बिकॉज देयर वाज नो लिक्विडिटी और देयर वाज नो वॉल्यूम. But today, the monthly SIB flows are approximately 29,000 crores. And January 26 saw the highest inflows of 31,000 crores, where retail investors have still not blinked even though markets have fallen. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I have a very different take on these foreign investors, and I'll try to cover that. That it's good for a foreign investor to have a happy and a smooth exit. Because when I put myself in their shoe and I'm sitting in a developed nation, if I
Right.
put, or if I'm thinking about putting money in a South Korea or a Taiwan or in India, and I purposefully mentioned the other two countries because last year returns specifically इन दोनों के बहुत ज़्यादा ही अच्छे रहे हैं. So if I specifically talk about Taiwan or even the South Korea, Taiwan का index is extremely concentrated because TSMC is 30% of their index, which is just one stock. South Korea में Samsung, LG, Hyundai are 25% of the index. But India में you will find that the market is extremely diversified, right? And let me be very patriotic here. We are the largest democracy in the world. We have the youngest population with an average age of 29. We are the fastest growing nation in the world with a GDP growth estimated even after this war of 7.1% in 2026. Our inflation numbers are well within RBI's comfort zone at approximately 3.2% last month. The smartest of minds, are Indians sitting at the top management positions of every global MNCs. So I'm not talking about Sundar Pichai or Satya Nadella. I'm talking about major top management positions. And of course, we have the superb diplomatic relations with every other country. So, not being political, but our prime minister can go and hug and handshake with Putin one day, and on the other day he can hug and have a handshake with Zelensky. Before this war started, our prime minister was at Israel's this parliament, and he got the highest honor. And then when he came back, and this entire Strait of Hormuz crisis happened, even then he was told that, okay, if you supply us with medicines, then we'll let your ships pass. And India has always been the country who has supported their neighboring countries in troubled times. So it's not the first time that we are going to supply medicines anyway. So all in all, what I'm trying to say is that for foreigners to invest here, it looks like a very, very positive market. But there are two problems naturally, which is why they've kind of took their money out. One is capital gain tax. It is a big problem. No country in the world has capital gain taxes on foreign capital. We do. And secondly, of course, currency depreciation, because we have high imports and low exports, so we have to depreciate our currency year on year to maintain the competitiveness of our goods globally. But of course, as a person who's sitting outside of India, that's a very big trigger on whether you should invest or not. Lastly, going about the question, I think I should also speak about commodities and what really worked out in 2026. So I think investors got stellar returns with gold and silver. And आपकी दादी जी, नानी जी, मेरी मम्मी ने मेरे को बताया कि भाई मैं तो हमेशा सही थी. And I looked like a fool because equity didn't work in 5, 10, 15 years and gold returns were much higher, right? And every day I think prices were rising left, right and center. And then one fine day on 31st January, it came crashing down 20-25%. So I didn't feel that bad, but now I understood how commodities shouldn't be left out of portfolios of any person per se, and we believe that at least in gold you should be in an SIP format, but silver is more of a trading commodity and one should probably trade in that. In fact, multi-asset category of mutual funds has received the highest inflows this year. But all in all, Mukul, a very, very volatile year when we look back. Yeah.
That was a very comprehensive 360-degree view of what happened last year. Thanks for that. You mentioned commodities at the end. You talked about how commodities have also been something that have performed really well and should be a part of one's portfolio. Talking in that same breath, now we are coming into FY27. FY27 में how are we positioned currently, both in terms of the market as well as macro? And also, are there any specific themes and sectors which are of interest to you in the financial year as we enter?
I'll like to start with the investing mentality of Indians. So why did Indian retail investors start investing heavily? Yeah, after COVID, they obviously invested because they were bored and घर पे कुछ करने को नहीं था क्योंकि सब घर पे बैठे थे. But there was another reason, and that was that there was a V-shaped recovery after the crash, right?
Yes.
So once it was clear that vaccination is available and you will not die per se as a race, then everyone was feeling much better, and then markets started their V-shaped recovery. But in this particular period of time, everyone was seeing charts on social media which showed them to, oh, this particular stock or this particular fund gave this much return in 10, 15, 20 years, and my 10 lakh can become 3 crores or my 10 lakh can become 5 crores, etc. But I believe that they've missed the biggest point here, and that is that the investors who earned these returns are not the ones who timed the market, but they're the one who gave the market time. Right? So that's very powerful. You have to give those 10, 15, 20 years before that 10 lakh became 3 crores. And to have that journey is very difficult. And here's the thing about corrections, right? That they're not anomalies. These are these admission price for long-term equity returns. Look at Sensex data from 1980 through 2025. There have been intra-year declines of 10% or more, and that's remarkably common. And yet, out of 45 years, 36 ended in positive territory. So average intra-year drawdown across the entire period has been 20%, and the average annual return has been 17%. So the market routinely drops 20% within a year and still delivers 17% annual returns over the long run. Corrections are not the opposite of growth, they are the cost of it. So Mukul, I'll tell you an inside story, I think. Recently, a few old AMCs who've completed 20, 25 years of their schemes, they went to look to award the people that have stayed the entire course. So somebody who's invested from the inception till whatever period today is, and when they've completed the milestone journeys. And they noticed that there were only a handful of people in the entire country, because obviously investing in a mutual fund itself was not a norm in the 90s. I mean, insurance policies and FDs के अलावा हमें कुछ आता भी नहीं था. But even then, the ones that they found, most of them either did not remember that they've ever invested in such a product per se, or it was their next generation. And जब आप उनके बेटे या बेटी के पास जाके उन्हें बता रहे थे कि भाई आपके फादर ने या आपके मदर ने 10,000 रुपये डाले थे 1995 में या 1998 में, and today it has grown to 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs or 5 lakhs or whatever the figure might be. It was itself that they could not believe that could ever happen to a particular check that somebody had given 20 years ago or 25 years ago. So I guess it really pays to invest and forget. But to answer your question more directly, yes, large cap P is at around 20. The Nifty 50 P is around 20, which is near fair valuations across if you look at the median valuations of last 5, 10, 15 years. And even Nifty small cap 250 index is at around 24. And the best part about small cap right now at least is that the earnings are amazing. I really don't think anybody can predict the highest highs and the lowest lows. But I believe that the market might make a bottom 3 months down the line, or it has probably made a bottom today also. Buying equities at lower prices always improves your long-term returns. So that being said, it should be a very good time to enter equities at these valuations. When you talk about themes or sectors, as you probably asked, I think defense is the sector that one should definitely look at. एंड आई नो मैं ऐसा कुछ आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स नहीं बोल रहा हूँ, सबको पता है दुनिया में वॉर हो रही है तो डिफेंस अच्छा करेगा, सबको पैसा डालेंगे. आई नो, आई मीन सिंप्लिसिटी इज द अल्टीमेट सोफिस्टिकेशन. But my point is that, even after like this entire escapade of Iran Israel, now UAE will feel that, okay, I might also need defense equipments. uh, Probably a Saudi or a Turkey will feel that they will require more defense equipments. So thankfully, due to India's current diplomatic status, technology is being shared with us, defense technology is being shared with us very easily by countries like Russia, US, France. So if we put our minds to it, we can be a big exporter of defense equipment. Secondly, I've already mentioned commodities. So, if we are in a commodity bull cycle, then metal and mining companies should do very well, because as in more minerals are mined, the margin expansion of that company is very well, and hence, the prices uh, go up and their profits are much better. So even though these companies are not very cheap and probably, you'll get them at an elevated price structure, I still feel that there is room there. Apart from that, I think, consumption and pharma are very generic themes, but yeah, no tactical calls there. These two would be my calls. Yeah.
All right, so that's on the equity front and the themes that you are looking at, and a little bit on the precious metals as well. ये तो आपने एक ओवरआर्चिंग व्यू दे दिया मार्केट का, बट नाउ लेट्स लुक एट इट फ्रॉम एन इन्वेस्टर्स पर्सपेक्टिव, जो म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्टिंग कर रहा है या करना चाहता है. What are the kind of categories and strategies they should be looking at for this year?
So, see, unfortunately, nobody knows mutual funds as things that can have or do your asset allocation. अभी सब क्या पता है कि म्यूचुअल फंड एक प्रोडक्ट होता है, या SIP भी लोग बोलते हैं कि प्रोडक्ट होता है. आप उसमें पैसा डालो एंड ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ सोशल मीडिया पोस्ट विल टेल यू कि इसमें पैसा डालो इतना बनेगा, लास्ट 3 साल में इसमें इतना बना है, एट्सेट्रा. सो आई एम गोना give you a full class on amphi categories today. There are broadly 5 categories per se, and inside those particular categories you have different funds per se. So for example, if you want to invest in fixed income, there are 2 types of fixed income mutual funds. One is an active category and one is a passive category. So active में हो गया कि भाई आपको 6 महीने के लिए पैसा डालना है, आपको 12 महीने के लिए पैसा डालना है, आपको 3 साल के लिए पैसा डालना है, तो अल्ट्रा शॉर्ट फंड, लो ड्यूरेशन फंड, शॉर्ट टर्म फंड, मीडियम फंड, एट्सेट्रा. And similarly, there are passive debt category of funds, wherein if you want to supposedly park your money for 6 months, so there are 6-month index funds. If you want to park your money for 10-year GSEC, 30-year GSEC, आज के दिन हर कैटेगरी और हर ड्यूरेशन के फंड्स अवेलेबल हैं. सो फिक्स्ड इनकम, अभी तक हम सिर्फ एक फिक्स डिपॉजिट या एक बॉन्ड जानते थे, बट आज के दिन म्यूचुअल फंड रूट से आप लिटरली हर स्पेस में डाइवर्सिफाई कर सकते हो, इवन इन डेट. Second category जो मैंने बोला 5 में से would be international equity funds. This is something that people probably don't even know about. Most people don't know about. That if you're sitting in India, that is just 5% of the entire global market. So ऐसा नहीं है कि सारी अच्छी कंपनीज सिर्फ इंडिया में ही है, राइट? आपके एप्पल्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड और माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड जो आप डेली लाइफ में यूज़ कर रहे हैं, वो तो अवेलेबल भी नहीं है इस पर्टिकुलर कंट्री में इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए. तो वाया म्यूचुअल फंड्स वी कैन इन्वेस्ट इन इंटरनेशनल एक्विटीज़ ऑल्सो. अगर आप चाहें तो आप US में भी इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं, आप चाइना में भी कर सकते हैं, आप ताइवान में भी कर सकते हैं, जापान में भी कर सकते हैं. वेरियस फंड्स आर देयर. करंटली आई डू अग्री दैट देयर इज दिस सेबीज 7 बिलियन लिमिट, एंड वो काफ़ी सारे फंड हाउसेज ने ब्रीच कर लिया. बट स्टिल देयर इज रूम विद सम ऑफ द फंड हाउसेज, एंड यू कैन स्टिल इन्वेस्ट इन इंटरनेशनल एक्विटी फंड्स एज वेल. Third category would probably be gold and silver. You can invest in a gold ETF, you can invest in a silver ETF, or you can invest in a combination of these two. So for example, a gold silver fund would mean that there's 50-50 gold and silver, and if gold rises, then there's a range. So for example, if 50-50 and gold 60 ho gaya, so they will sell and rebalance it down to 50-50, and similarly with silver. So the idea is that you're profit booking also, and you're equally allocated between the two you're equally allocated between the two commodities. So this is a commodity kind of a fund cycle. Fourth would be Indian listed equity. So this is the most common form of mutual fund investing that you and me and the average Indian does, which is an active or a passive kind of mutual fund. एक्टिव के अंदर भी बहुत सारे कैटेगरीज हैं. सो अगर आपको फ्रंट लाइन करना है तो लार्ज कैप, मिड कैप, स्मॉल कैप, ये सारी कैटेगरीज है. एक मल्टी कैप, फ्लेक्सी कैप, जो सब कुछ मिला देता है लार्ज मिड स्मॉल को. देन देर आर सेक्टरल फंड्स. So we discussed defense, right? So there would be a defense index fund or a defense active fund as well. There would be a technology fund, there would be a pharma fund, etc. Similarly, there are passive mutual funds also. एंड यहाँ पे भी दो कैटेगरीज हैं. सो एक तो हो गया प्लेन वनीला इंडेक्सेस कि निफ्टी 50 हो गया, निफ्टी 500 हो गया, निफ्टी नेक्स्ट 50 हो गया. एंड देन दूसरा कैटेगरी हो जाता है जो बोलते हैं कि भाई आप फैक्टर लगा दो कोई. सो देर आर फैक्टर फंड्स. So for example, we are very gung-ho about momentum and low volatility factors. So, if you mix these two funds, then they show a superior return over plain vanilla funds on a risk-adjusted basis if mixed together over a longer period of time. And they use multiples. कि भाई आपने प्राइस फैक्टर लगा दिया कि 6 महीने 12 महीने में कुछ कंपनीज जो ज़्यादा मूव कर रही हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ प्राइसिंग वो मोमेंटम में आएगा, जो कम मूव कर रही हैं वो लो वॉल में आएगा. सो ऐसे करके अलग अलग फैक्टर फंड्स भी होते हैं, क्वांट फंड्स भी होते हैं जिनमें आप इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं. एंड द फिफ्थ कैटेगरी इज दी हाइब्रिड म्यूचुअल फंड्स जो मैंने बताया भी मल्टी एसेट फॉर एग्जांपल. वहाँ पे क्या है ना, इट्स अ मिक्स ऑफ डिफरेंट एसेट क्लासेस. सो ऑब्वियसली देयर इज अ स्पेशल मेंशन टू मल्टी एसेट बिकॉज वहाँ पे इट्स लाइक अ राजस्थानी थाली कि भी आप इक्विटी, डेट, गोल्ड, सिल्वर, इंटरनेशनल इक्विटी, ऑयल, आज के दिन रीट, इन्वेट सब कुछ को मिला सकते हैं. एंड वो आदमी मैंने सिर्फ एक ही फंड में पैसा लगा सकता है क्योंकि उसके अंदर सारे चीज़ें एक तरीके से मिक्स है. वहाँ पे भी अब दो हो गए, एक प्योर इक्विटी मल्टी एसेट फंड्स और ओमनी मल्टी एसेट फंड्स. तो प्योर इक्विटी वुड भी जहाँ पे 65% उनको इक्विटी रखना पड़ता है बिकॉज दे वांट टू गिव यू अ बेटर टैक्सेशन. एंड ओमनी वाले हो गए वेर इन दे कैन do 35% equity and the rest in the other assets. So that's more diversified and more conservative in terms of holistic thali fund that I mentioned. So, mutual funds are a route to invest in various asset classes. हमें पता ही नहीं है कि हम कहाँ कहाँ डाल सकते हैं, ये खाली एक मोडस है. आपका एंड गोल जो भी हो वो सब कुछ पर्पस कंप्लीट कर सकता है आज की.
ओके, तो म्यूचुअल फंड इज नॉट अ प्रोडक्ट, इट्स अ यूनिवर्स. उससे आप अपने प्रोडक्ट्स चूज कीजिए बेस्ड ऑन योर एसेट एलोकेशन रिक्वायरमेंट्स, योर गोल्स, वट एवर यू हैव, राइट? तो क्योंकि आपने इतने सारे प्रोडक्ट्स विद इन द म्यूचुअल फंड बास्केट बताए हैं, दे हैव देयर ओन पर्पस. तो मान लीजिए आज कोई इन्वेस्टर है जिसके पास या तो आज वो फ्रेश इन्वेस्टिंग चालू करना चाहता है या दे माइट हैव सम लम सम टू इन्वेस्ट ओवर एंड अबव व्हाट दे हैव ऑलरेडी इन्वेस्टेड. तो FY27 के लिए बेसिस वॉट एवर वी हैव डिस्कस सो फार, क्या आप सजेस्ट करेंगे कि किसी इन्वेस्टर को मार्केट को कैसे अप्रोच करना चाहिए?
See, there cannot be any generic answer to this, right? क्योंकि हर आदमी की लाइफ सिचुएशन डिफरेंट है, राइट? एंड हर आदमी का पैसा का मंशा भी डिफरेंट है. सो यू हैव अ वेरी डिफरेंट पर्पस फॉर योर मनी एंड इट माइट बी वेरी वेरी डिफरेंट फॉर मी. And the requirement of money might be different. So for example, I might require money for some ABC expenses which are very big in 3 to 5 years, and somebody else might not require it for the next 18 years. So that has to be defined first. And financial jargon में इसको risk profile बोलते हैं. But if you just kind of talk it out with someone, they will be able to tell you that okay, my purpose of this particular money is this, or I have A, B, and C goals, and I want to allocate my money basis this, right? See, if you want to invest for 3 to 5 years, then probably hybrid or commodities are a way to go because आपको पता है कि आपको 3-5 साल में पैसे निकालने ही पड़ेंगे because you have that goal or expense coming in for you. If you have a longer time horizon, then I would say that probably you can do equity more. But in both scenarios, I believe that I'm not God and nobody can predict which is the best day to invest in markets. So every single time I tell my client, boss, आप SIP कीजिए, STP कीजिए. If someone comes and tells me that okay, this is 1 crore, this is supposed to be invested, so we always try to put it in a debt fund and then stagger those investments in STPs every month. Because the best part about mutual funds is, as a product I mean, is that it gives you flexibility. So if supposedly you start an STP today and then एक महीना बाद आपको लग रहा है कि नहीं markets for some reason कोई war ही हो गया, markets गिर गए हैं, you can add the entire money or some more bigger part of the chunk to equity, and then if on the contrary, if the markets go down, then you can even stop the STPs. So that flexibility is available with you at all particular point in times.
Okay, तो आप अपने circumstances को ध्यान में रखिए एंड बेसिस दैट एक डिसीजन लीजिए. बट नेवरदलेस अगर फॉर लाइक एन एवरेज इन्वेस्टर जो भी अगर कुछ मार्केट में आना चाहता है, तो पहली बात तो आप अपने इन्वेस्टमेंट्स को स्टैगर कीजिए, लमसम को एक बार में नहीं डालिए. एंड जो आपका टाइम होराइजन है उसके बेसिस पे इफ़ यू हैव अ लॉन्गर टाइम होराइजन यू कैन लुक एट एक्विटीज. अगर आपका 3 to 5 ईयर का ही विंडो है तो मे बी लुक एट समथिंग लाइक अ हाइब्रिड फंड और समथिंग लाइक प्रेशियस मेटल्स एंड कमोडिटीज. So, Rishabh, I have just one final question, and I think that's an important question. Investing में क्या करना है ये सब तो हमने देख लिया है, but one mistake that investors should keep an eye out for and consciously avoid going into financial year 2027.
So Eleanor Roosevelt has said it very nicely. Learn from the mistake of others because you can't live long enough to make them all yourself, right? I think एक नहीं 4 गलतियां करते हैं mainly लोग. एक तो there is too much choice today. India offers more investment choices than ever before. I think today more than 50 MCs exist, but more choice also means more confusion. Investors don't know what they've invested in. Most investors only know and have invested in a pure equity mutual fund because उनको पता ही है. अगर आप पूछोगे किसी से कि भाई आपने लेट्स अज्यूम कोई कॉन्वर्जेशन में बात आई जाती है कि भाई आपने कौन से फंड में इन्वेस्ट किया हुआ है, तो द आंसर इज आई हैव इन्वेस्टेड इन ABC म्यूचुअल फंड. दे डोंट इवन नो द स्कीम, लेट अलोन द फंड मैनेजर स्ट्रैटेजी. तो दूर की बात है, उनको स्कीम में नहीं पता है. वो बोलेंगे आपको कि मैंने ABC म्यूचुअल फंड में पैसा डाला, विच इज़ रॉन्ग, राइट? सो ये बहुत बड़ी मैंने इशू है आज के दिन, आई थिंक. एंड दिस इज अ मिस्टेक दैट पीपल मेक, दैट दे डोंट अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट दे हैव इन्वेस्टेड इन. सो दैट नीड्स some time before you invest in a particular product or a fund or a stock itself. Second would be probably क्या ना, before buying a car, one would do all kinds of research on the features of the car. He would do 10 companies test drives. हम सब करेंगे. बट बिफोर मेकिंग एन इन्वेस्टमेंट हम क्या करते हैं, हम जाके अपने फ्रेंड को पूछते हैं, कि कलीग को पूछते हैं कि भाई को टिप दे दे, कोई सजेशन दे दे, एंड वील इन्वेस्ट दैट मनी. या वील गो टू दैट न्यूज़ चैनल एंड 10 different people come in every day and 10 different people go out every day. बट वील आस्क दैट पर्सन कि बॉस आप क्या कर सकते हैं, एंड दैट पर्सन विल टेल यू कि बॉस अभी ये अच्छा लग रहा है, एंड वील मेक दैट इन्वेस्टमेंट. खुद का धंधा को बढ़ाने में ना हम जितना टाइम देते हैं, उतना ही टाइम अगर हम अपने लाइफ सेविंग्स पे भी दें, तो आई थिंक people will grow wealth much faster. So I think this mindset really needs to change. People really need to took more time on investing rather than just going away with any kind of tip or suggestion that they receive. Third would probably be chasing the funds that return the highest last year. So every newspaper will show you ki the top 10 funds or the top 5 funds that have performed in one category or mutual funds as a whole, and people would blindly go to that fund manager. एंड इनफैक्ट इन मोस्ट केसेस इन इंडिया हुआ भी यही है, जो फंड सबसे अच्छा परफॉर्म करता है उसी को अपने इन्फ्लोज बंद करने पड़ते हैं, क्योंकि सब वो देख के उसके पास आ जाते हैं. एंड इंडिया में तो बहुत पॉपुलर वो एडवर्टीजमेंट है मारुति का कि भाई बाकी सब तो ठीक है पर देती कितना है. तो इंडिया में वैसे ही लोग बात करते हैं कि भाई ये फंड तो ठीक है, बाकी सब ठीक है, लेकिन हाउ मच इज इट गिविंग इट यू, व्हाट इज द रिटर्न ऑफ दैट पर्टिकुलर फंड, रिस्क क्या है, व्हाट आर यू इन्वेस्टिंग इन, नोबडी आस्क्स. So that I think is a mistake. I think investing is about building a portfolio that matches your goals, suits your temperament, and can stay resilient across all market cycles, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, the biggest problem is obviously inaction. They always try to time everything. So अगर supposedly आपने आज कुछ बोला है कि हाँ हम करेंगे, तो नहीं देखते हैं, नहीं सोचते हैं, अच्छा नहीं पेपर तैयार करते हैं, अच्छा करना पड़ेगा, सैटरडे संडे करेंगे. Like all of this is a big inaction issue. So people don't give enough importance to this particular part of their lives, which I think is a mistake and is a big problem. Yeah.
अच्छा, दैट्स इंटरेस्टिंग. हमने एक मिस्टेक पूछी थी, आपने 4 इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट मिस्टेक्स बताई है, बट आई थिंक ऑल ऑफ देम आर वेरी रेलेवेंट इफ वन इज स्टार्टिंग देयर इन्वेस्टिंग जर्नी और आर इन देयर इन्वेस्टमेंट जर्नी. सो आई थिंक दैट इज ऑल वी हैव फॉर टुडे. ऋषभ, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर टेकिंग द टाइम आउट. फाइनेंशियल ईयर चालू ही हो रहा है, एंड आई बिलीव दिस इन्फॉर्मेशन इज क्रिटिकल टू दोज हु आर अगेन विल बी इन्वेस्टिंग इन द कमिंग ईयर.
Final advice to all my viewers in these troubled
Yes,
times.
please.
I think सबको बहुत टेंशन में अभी, क्योंकि तेल के दाम and all of these war scenarios and all of that. So I think one very famous line by our stock market शाहरुख खान, अनिल सिंघवी is कि मार्केट हो या इंसान, जाना तो ऊपर ही है. So please be all right and everything will fall into place for you.
I think we can close this episode with this line of optimism, and hopefully ऊपर ही जाए FY27 में market. Thanks once again. Wishing you a wonderful FY27.
Thank you, Mukul. Yeah.
As Mr. Rishabh Kankaria discussed, FY26 was filled with global triggers and volatility, but not every headline mattered equally. He highlighted a few signals that investors needed to watch more closely, from oil prices to foreign flows to the growing role of domestic participation in the Indian market. He also explained that mutual funds are not one narrow category but a wider universe of investments across equities, fixed income, commodities, and international exposure. As for FY27, the conversation pointed back to a simple idea: decisions that are rooted in category, time horizon, and staggered allocation. However, investment decisions can vary vastly based on individual circumstances and individual goals, and it's best to consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. If you liked this discussion and would like to know more about Mr. Rishabh Kankaria, you can click the link in the description below. Until next time.
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिम के अधीन है। योजना संबंधी सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें। म्यूचुअल फंड इन्वेस्टमेंट्स आर सब्जेक्ट टू मार्केट रिस्क्स. Read all scheme related documents carefully.